hit the start button, and I'm ready. I hope you are too. I know a lot of my subscribers don't go to church, but it's real common for a pastor to start a sermon with a joke. So, I'm going to do that. And it's a stupid joke, but it's going to come in really handy to my animal rights activists when they hear a Christian say that they don't eat much meat, or they're slowing down on it. So here we go. Cop sitting in his police car, watching traffic goes by. Car comes up to the stop sign, slows down, and keeps going. The stop sign, it's not a slow down sign. So the cop goes and pulls him over. Says, "Hey, you came to a stop sign and you didn't stop." The guy goes, "Come on, officer, give me a break. I looked both ways. There was no traffic. I slowed down. What's the difference?" The cop goes, "You need to stop." And he goes, "Come on, I slowed down. There was no traffic. What's the difference?" So the cop pulls him out of the car, takes out his billy club, starts beating him with it. Says, "What's the difference? You tell me. Do you want me to slow down or do you want me to stop?" Okay. Why? Why did I do that stupid joke? Because a lot of times as animal rights activists, we hear people say to us, "I only eat a little meat," or I've slowed down greatly. I plan on going vegan one day. See, those are answers people give. I think, well, first off, when they say it, I don't believe them. Their idea might be one day they decided to have a salad instead of a burger for lunch, but the rest of the week it's just that's not slowing down. They're fooling themselves. I think what they're doing is they're offering that as a rebuttal to us animal rights activists because they're feeling guilty and they just want something to say without completely lying. So they say, "Well, I'm slowing down." Well, can you see from the joke how that matters? And it specifically works well in my activism because when I'm talking to a Christian, slowing down on doing something sinful is not an option a Christian can use. Right? It's our responsibility to stop. Now, it's not going to say that as a Christian you're ever going to reach sinless perfection where, you're wrapped up in a sin and you're going to be able to stop it like that. I mean, there's many scriptures that say through Christ all things are possible. But that's for another lecture. This one's going to be about how to use the Bible against Christians who say I'm slowing down when it comes to meat eating, or I'm on a journey. That one we get a lot too. Well, I'm on a journey to veganism. Don't brush me, don't push me, that kind of thing. So let's look at a few verses. The first verse I would want to pull up would be one of my favorites. If you're an animal rights activist and you don't have this one memorized, I really suggest you do it because it's not a big verse. It's an easy one. It's James chapter 4, verse 17. It says, "To whoever knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it's sin." So if you get a Christian who you've just told them this is animal abuse, if you eat animal products, animals were abused, which is sinful, sexually molested, which is, bestiality, which is sinful, they are tortured, they are denied every natural behavior God wanted them to have, and you prove to them that the food products they consume come from an evil source, then for them to continue doing that, it's sinful. So if you've proved that to them, this verse comes in super duper handy for you. So remember, if you can remember James chapter 4, verse 17, you can always say, pull it up on your phone. Ask the Christian you're having this confrontation with to pull it up on their phone. It's such an easy thing these days to do that. I mean, back when I started doing Jesus stuff, I used to have to carry a Bible with me, pain in the neck. Nowadays, it's like you can also pull up video footage on your phone, like from Earthlings or Dominion. So you can show the Christian you're advocating veganism to just how evil those things are and that God would never intend that. So let's look at a couple more verses. I got them written down on the screen here. Let me just pull up. You think by now, after 50 plus years, I'd have the Bible memorized. No, not a chance. I'm way too blonde to memorize that much. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 26. Let me read it to you. It says, "For if we go on sinning deliberately, after receiving the knowledge of the truth," you see how that works? Okay, after you know. Again, it gives you that, it gives wiggle room to the sinner because sometimes people do things they don't know are sinful. And a lot of the Christians that come to, let's say, a Cube of Truth or wherever you're doing your activism, they don't really know it's sinful. Think about it like this. I just talked to a lady not too long ago that was in her 70s and just finally found out that cows don't give milk unless it involves a baby, like they just had a baby or they're having a baby or whatever. They thought cows just naturally give milk every day, and if you don't milk them, they're going to explode. Yes, there are people, grown adults, who still believe that kind of stuff. So you got to cut them some slack. So that's why Hebrews chapter 10 works really good. I'll read it again. For if we go on sinning deliberately after receiving the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins. So if you continue on what you're doing, that's not following Jesus. That's not following Christ. That's not serving God. That's rebellion against what God's teaching. So Hebrews is a good verse. Let me look up another verse for you. Let's have a peek at a verse in Revelation. It's chapter 3, verse 15. This is a fun one. We're using the word lukewarm. And it's not a word we use much. Let me read it to you and then I'll explain why I'm uncomfortable with it, but it will work. All right. I know your works, you are neither cold nor hot. Would that you were either cold or hot, so because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I spew you out of my mouth. Spew. I like using that word. I want to use spew and lukewarm. Those are good words. We don't use those words today. But the thing is, I'm drinking lukewarm tea. It doesn't really faze me, so that one really doesn't work. But every Christian has this verse drummed into our heads to where we know that means we either need to be hot or cold. We either need to stop eating animals or continue, but you pick one. Jesus is going to reject you if you're in the middle. So when a Christian says, I'm slowing down, I'm not eating as much, I only eat a little meat, or I'm not eating as much meat as I used to, you can say, well, Jesus would spew you out of his mouth. Either make the decision that, yes, eating products made from animal abuse is totally cool with God, and we know it's not. It's totally cool with God, or it isn't, but make a decision. Didn't Yoda say something like that too? Oh my gosh, I'm not a Star Wars guy. I'd never watched, I think I saw the first movie, but it was either there is no try, there is only do or do not, or something like that. So I just thought, wow, I wonder if Yoda got that from the book of Revelation. So what if the Christian kicks back and says, you know what? If I'm sinning, then so be it, but that's what Jesus died for, my sins. Well, not so. We got Romans chapter 6, where the Apostle Paul says this. What shall we say then? Are we to continue in sin that grace may abound? By no means! Exclamation point. Did you ever see that guy who would go make weird sound effects when he does the exclamation points? I should learn that. By no means. Oh, Apostle Paul saying, no way. How can we who have died to sin still live in it? So that the Christian you're talking to, I'm pretty sure is going to be very familiar with the last part of that verse where it says, how can we who died to sin still live in it? What Paul is doing there is he is crushing the idea that sin is tolerable or allowed because God's going to forgive us anyway. He's just smashing it like that. So when you know eating products made from animal abuse is sin, when you admit it, if you're a Christian and you say, well, I'm slowing down, it's not acceptable. God's grace is not going to be there for that because you're rejecting his grace. Let's talk about somebody who's addicted, like to a drug or alcohol addicted. They might honestly be trying. And that's a hard point because that's where we're not to judge. We can't judge a person's heart, what's really in their heart. They might be in a place where they are so physically addicted to drugs or alcohol that they are trying. But they're not saying, I'm going to slow down and stop. Most alcoholics know, I need to stop cold turkey. Most drug addicts know, I need to stop. Can I say cold turkey? Can vegans say that term? Maybe not. They need to do a cold hard stop. Let's just change it to that. So they need to do a cold hard stop. And I think addicts are trying to do that, but they're failing. That's where grace and forgiveness comes in. Grace and forgiveness doesn't apply to somebody like, yeah, I know it's sinful, but I'll give it up later. I'll give it up little by little. No, that doesn't work. And I think this verse in Romans will help back that up, especially that last part. How can we who died to sin still continue on in it? That's a great verse to use against Christians who use the I only eat a little meat or I'm slowing down. In the verse I was just talking about, I did say something like they're trying and all that. I want to take another verse from Luke that'll apply to that aspect in a little bit more. See, they'll say they're trying to give up, but it's too hard to do. So I'm on a journey. I know, journey. Vegans, we're so tired of hearing that word. But they're on a journey to where they're making it so they don't eat meat any longer. Luke chapter 9 is not going to allow that. Let me read the verse. If anyone come after me, let him deny himself and take up the cross daily and follow me. Jesus is saying a daily act of self-denial. It's part of what you do. It doesn't allow room for journey and making it at your own pace. No, you can't just say, God, I'm going to abuse animals a little bit less every day until I stop. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. So Luke chapter 9, verse 23, if anyone comes after me, let him deny himself. It's a daily denial. It says, pick up your cross. Okay, take up your cross daily and follow me. Taking up your cross, that means you suffer. In the year 2025, we're not really being crucified every day. But when they say it's too difficult to give up meat, Jesus is saying, I expect you, that's your cross. That's your sin that you need to pick up and carry daily. You need to fight that daily. You can't let it overcome you. So that one's for Luke. Do I have another one? Let's see. Let's look at John chapter 3. Oh, 1 John. Excuse me. There's so many Johns. There's so many Johns in the Bible. Well, that means there's plenty of bathrooms. So it sounded like I started with a bad joke and I still have more bad jokes. I should just stop the bad jokes. I know. So John chapter 3, 1 John. No one who abides in him keeps sinning. Whoever makes a practice of sinning is of the devil. No one born of God makes a practice of sinning. So that first part of that verse where it says no one who abides in him keeps sinning, I've said it in other videos, it's very important to convince the Christian the food that they get comes from sinful places, because no one who abides in God can keep on sinning. You can't keep on buying products made from sin. It's just wrong. So you can use that against someone, again, who says they're slowing down, they're trying to stop, or they're on their journey, whatever method they're using. I think that's enough verses to go through to give you a little bit of footing in your vegan advocacy. If I sum it up, it's true, no one's perfect, but the Bible, it never treats people's imperfection as an excuse or to be complicit in sin. The goal is not to. So where am I? Personal journey. Christians can't use it. I'm slowing down. Christians can't use it. I'm trying to be patient with it. These are not objections a Christian can use to your vegan message. So I hope that helps, and I'll try not to make any more dumb jokes like that, because you're probably saying, no, Steve, don't try to make dumb jokes. Just stop.